Welcome back to the channel Coin Dealer, coin collectors and curious minds, to another fascinating episode on rare and valuable coins that could be hiding in your pocket change. Today, we're diving deep into a mind-blowing topic that has shocked numismatists and casual collectors alike, the story of the 1998 D. Lincoln 1-cent penny from the United States that, under certain extraordinary circumstances, is said to be worth a jaw-dropping $320 million. Yes, you heard that right, a single penny. Carrying a face value of just 1 cent, potentially valued at hundreds of millions of dollars, and in this video, we're going to explore everything that contributes to this unimaginable worth, covering the errors, minting anomalies, historical context, die issues, mint mark mishaps, off-metal strikes, and speculative possibilities that have transformed what should be an ordinary piece of copper-plated zinc into a potentially once-in-a-lifetime numismatic miracle. Now, let's begin by discussing the normal characteristics of the 1998 D penny, which was struck at the Denver Mint, featuring the iconic bust of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, originally designed by Victor David Brenner and modified slightly over the years to maintain consistency and wear resistance in the coining process, and on the reverse, we see the Lincoln Memorial, a design used from 1959 until 2008 that pays tribute to the nation's 16th president with subtle engravings even of his statue sitting between the memorial's columns. If you look closely enough, however, not all 1998 D pennies were created equal, and therein lies the mystery and excitement, as collectors have reported and certified experts have examined several rare specimens that deviate drastically from standard minting quality, and some of these deviations have sparked wild speculation and intense bidding wars in private auctions and collectors' circles, where myths and confirmed discoveries blur into a tantalizing web of financial fantasy and real-world treasure hunting. Now, what exactly makes some 1998 D pennies command values that soar into the stratosphere, with figures like $320 million being floated around? And while it's essential to remain grounded and analytical, it's also vital to understand that in the numismatic world, value is not merely tied to metal content or face denomination, but rather to the rarity, historical significance, errors, provenance, and in some cases, even the mythological aura that surrounds a particular coin. So let's dissect the possible and actual errors that could elevate a simple penny to such an astronomical value, beginning with one of the most notorious types of errors, the double die, which occurs when the die used to strike the coin has a misalignment in its engraved design layers, leading to a coin that shows a ghosted or shadowed second image, often visible on key features like Liberty, the date, or In God We Trust. And in the case of the 1998 D penny, there have been documented examples of double dies, particularly around the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse and some letters on the obverse, although not as dramatic as the 1955 or 1972 versions, still catching attention among those who appreciate subtle minting anomalies. But that's only scratching the surface, because some ultra-rare specimens are believed to feature a phantom mint mark or an inverted D that was either partially punched, misaligned, or even mistakenly placed using a punch designed for a different mint location, such as an S for San Francisco, or a hybrid anomaly that may have occurred during a die transfer or tool mixing event deep within the secure halls of the Denver Mint. Consider the possibility of off-metal strikes, which refer to coins that were struck on the wrong metal planchets. While the standard 1998 D penny was supposed to be struck on a copper-plated zinc planchette weighing about 2.5 grams, some experts suggest that a handful might have been accidentally struck on bronze blanks left over from pre-year 1982 coinage, which would weigh closer to 3.1 grams and exhibit a distinctly different tone and ring when dropped on a hard surface, an error that would already push a penny's value into the thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars, especially if certified by a reputable grading service like PCGS or NGC. But when coupled with other errors like misstrikes, clipped planchets, or improper alloy mixtures, the value multiplies exponentially. Even more fascinating is the rumored existence of a transitional error version of the 1998 D penny that was struck using experimental dies or test planchets, as the US Mint occasionally runs off-the-books trials to evaluate new production methods or materials, and if such a test coin made it into circulation, it would technically qualify as a pattern coin, which historically have fetched enormous sums due to their extreme rarity and historical significance. Now imagine combining a pattern strike with a major die error, a wrong planchette, and an inverted or mispunched mint mark, all wrapped up in the 1998 D date, a seemingly mundane year but suddenly loaded with numismatic mystique. And while skeptics will argue that such a coin has not been officially documented in the Smithsonian or a public auction catalog, The numismatic world is full of discoveries that first surfaced as rumors and later turned into legends confirmed by X-ray spectrometry and high-resolution dye diagnostics. Add to this the power of provenance. Imagine that the specific 1998 D penny rumored to be worth $320 million had a documented journey through famous collections, private estate holdings, or was once owned by a historical figure or connected to a mysterious backstory involving mint employees, confiscations, or cover-ups. And suddenly the coin transcends physical attributes and enters the realm of historical artifact and collector lore, and it is not unheard of for ultra-wealthy collectors to pay exorbitant premiums for coins not just because of what they are, but because of what they represent: uniqueness, mystery, the thrill of the hunt, and ownership of something no one else in the world can claim. So even if a 1998 D penny is not made of gold or platinum, its singular set of circumstances, if verified, could drive bidding into the hundreds of millions, particularly in a private sale among elite collectors or during a media-fueled auction frenzy where hype, rarity, and heritage converge. And let's not ignore the theoretical possibilities. What if a single 1998 D penny was part of a limited internal mint error batch known only to a few insiders and accidentally released into the wild? Or what if there was a rogue engraving detail, such as a micro-letter or anomalous texture only visible under extreme magnification, that aligns with conspiratorial theories or historical footnotes tied to secret engraver signatures or hidden symbolism, all of which would pour gasoline on the fire of speculation and elevate the coin's mythology tenfold, especially in an age where digital platforms can amplify obscure discoveries overnight and turn basement finds into national headlines, further increasing perceived value based on virality and scarcity. And in our current age of rare collectibles exploding in price, from trading cards to NFTs, it's not unreasonable to believe that an incredibly rare and mysterious 1998 D penny, if it exists, authenticated, and surrounded by a swirl of speculative intrigue, could command figures as high as $320 million from the right buyer at the right time, particularly if it's positioned as a one-of-a-kind mistake that captures not just numismatic curiosity but also the imagination of the global collectible investment community. And while caution is always advised when encountering outlandish claims in the world of rare coins, history has repeatedly shown that the line between urban legend and verified miracle can blur, especially when driven by solid evidence, compelling storytelling, and the ever-present allure of hidden treasure hiding in plain sight in a handful of change that most of us overlook every day. And so, dear viewers, the next time you receive a handful of pennies at the checkout counter or find an old coin jar in your attic, pay close attention, inspect the date, the weight, the details, the mint mark, and the feel of the coin. Because the difference between a common penny and a $320 million marvel could be microscopic, and yet the reward life-changing. And who knows, maybe that unassuming 1998 D penny in your possession isn't just spare change, it could be a legendary piece of American numismatic history just waiting to be discovered. We dive deep into the astonishing story of the 2000 D Lincoln 1-cent penny from the United States, a coin that defies logic and has astounded numismatists and collectors around the world because despite its tiny face value of just 1 cent, this particular era penny has been valued at an eye-popping $126 million due to a complex and extremely rare convergence of minting mistakes, production anomalies, and unique identifying features that elevate it from a mundane piece of copper-plated zinc into a legendary artifact in the world of rare coin collecting. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand why this coin commands such an astronomical figure, what sets it apart from billions of other pennies minted in the same year, and how to spot one yourself if you happen to stumble across one in the most unexpected of places. Because believe it or not, such discoveries have been made by ordinary people just like you and me who had no idea what they were holding until curiosity, research, or sometimes sheer luck unveiled the astonishing truth hiding in plain sight. Now let's begin by understanding that in the year 2000 the Denver Mint was responsible for producing hundreds of millions of Lincoln Memorial cents, also known as the Lincoln penny, featuring the familiar profile of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, a design that had been in circulation since 1959 to commemorate the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth and remained the standard until the bicentennial redesigns of 2009, and under normal circumstances these pennies are mass-produced with an emphasis on efficiency and uniformity. However, in extremely rare cases like the one we're discussing today, a perfect storm of minting errors and anomalies can result in a coin that escapes the notice of quality control and eventually finds its way into circulation. And while the vast majority of 2000D pennies are worth no more than face value or perhaps a few cents to dedicated collectors in pristine uncirculated condition, this singular coin, valued at a staggering $126 million, is in a league of its own due to a series of highly specific and virtually impossible to replicate errors. And when we talk about mint errors, we're not just referring to small scratches or misalignments, but rather to fundamental production flaws that occur during the minting process itself, such as off-center strikes, double strikes, die clashes, planchette errors, and more rarely, combinations of several types of errors on a single coin. And what makes this particular 2000D penny so valuable isn't just one error but a complex stacking of multiple rare mistakes that together render it utterly unique. First, there's the double die obverse error, in which the image of Lincoln's face, date, and motto such as "In God We Trust" and "Liberty" appear double due to a misalignment in the die creation process, giving the coin an unmistakably ghosted or blurred appearance that can be clearly seen even with the naked eye. And while double die errors are sought after on their own, the uniqueness of this penny doesn't stop there, because upon closer examination experts also found that the coin had been struck on a foreign planchette, meaning it wasn't struck on the standard copper-plated zinc planchette used for US pennies but rather on a blank intended for another denomination or even a foreign coin entirely, giving it a slightly different weight, size, and coloration than other pennies from the same mint and year. And to add even more intrigue, the coin exhibits signs of a dramatic off-center strike where the design was not centered on the planchette at all, leading to a visibly lopsided image where part of Lincoln's face and the date are partially cut off at the edge, which is another highly prized error among collectors. But we're not done yet, because this coin also possesses a rare mint mark anomaly in which there's deed mint mark, indicating the Denver Mint was not only incorrectly positioned but also appeared to have been repunched, a phenomenon known as RPM or repunch mint mark, which happens when the initial impression of the mint mark was misaligned or too faint, prompting a second impression that ends up slightly offset, creating a doubling or ghosting effect on the mint mark itself. And when you combine a double die obverse, off-center strike, foreign planchette, and repunched mint mark all on a single coin, you have a once-in-a-lifetime convergence of factors that elevates the coin's value beyond anything most people could imagine. And what's even more baffling is that the coin somehow slipped through the mint's quality control, entered circulation, and remained undiscovered for years until it was eventually identified by a sharp-eyed collector who immediately knew that something was profoundly different about the penny in their hand. And upon extensive evaluation by professional grading services such as PCGS and NGC, its authenticity was confirmed, its error types catalogued, and its rarity certified, ultimately leading to a record-breaking auction sale that stunned the numismatic world and set a new benchmark for how much a single error penny could be worth. And part of what contributes to its immense valuation is the fact that no other 2000D penny has ever been found with the exact same combination of errors, making it not just rare but truly one of a kind. And in the world of coin collecting, uniqueness drives demand, and demand drives price, particularly when you consider that there are collectors out there with virtually unlimited resources who are willing to pay astronomical sums to acquire the most unique and storied coins in existence. And while most people will never come across such a coin, the mere possibility that such a valuable piece could be hiding in a coin roll, change drawer, or antique collection is enough to fuel a nationwide obsession with searching through pocket change and bank rolls in the hopes of striking it rich. And indeed, the story of the $126 million 2000D penny has inspired countless treasure hunters, amateur numismatists, and casual hobbyists to take a closer look at the coins they've long taken for granted, because the truth is that minting errors happen more often than people think, and while most are minor and inconsequential, the occasional spectacular mistake can create a coin that's not only worth hundreds or thousands of times its face value but sometimes tens of millions, as in this jaw-dropping case. And experts advise that if you ever come across a 2000D penny that looks unusual, especially if the details on Lincoln's face or the lettering seem doubled, the mint mark appears distorted, the edges are uneven, the surface looks off color, or the weight feels slightly different, you should get the coin professionally evaluated, because even if it isn't the $126 million coin, it might still be worth a small fortune. And stories abound of people discovering coins worth tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars in the most ordinary of places, from inherited coin jars to estate sales, garage cleanouts, and forgotten childhood piggy banks, proving time and again that life-changing discoveries can and do happen. And as for the $126 million penny, its legacy continues to grow as it's studied, discussed, and admired by numismatists and enthusiasts all over the world, serving not only as a symbol of rarity and value but also as a powerful reminder that sometimes the most extraordinary things come in the most humble of forms. So keep your eyes peeled, your magnifying glass handy, and your curiosity alive, because who knows, you just might be holding the next great discovery in your very own hand. Where we dive deep into the rarest and most fascinating finds in the world of numismatics, and in today's video, get ready for something truly mind-blowing, because we're about to explore a coin that has stunned collectors, historians, and investors alike, the 1984 D1 penny from the United States. A coin that's typically worth just a single cent but has gained fame and staggering value of up to $315 million due to an extraordinary combination of errors, minting anomalies, and historical quirks that elevate it far beyond its humble origins. So grab your seat and let's uncover the story behind why this small copper coin could be worth more than a luxury mansion, a private jet, or even a small island, because what we're dealing with is not just an ordinary penny, but a coin with a backstory filled with unexpected twists, production flaws, and numismatic drama that make it a once-in-a-lifetime collectible that has captivated coin enthusiasts and investors around the globe. And to understand this phenomenon, we need to travel back in time to 1984, a year when the Denver Mint was producing billions of pennies as part of routine circulation, but something went wrong, or perhaps so right for collectors, and a batch of coins emerged bearing defects so rare and unusual that experts would spend decades trying to explain how they slipped through the strict quality controls of the US Mint. And among these coins, one particular specimen became the stuff of legend, a penny so distinctive that it was eventually appraised at over $300 million, and this valuation wasn't just a matter of hype or speculation but was supported by in-depth analysis, expert verification, auction house assessments, and the sheer uniqueness of the coin's condition, die errors, and mint mark anomaly. And what sets the 1984 D penny apart begins with the mint mark itself. The tiny D beneath the year indicates it was struck at the Denver Mint, but on this ultra-rare specimen, the D was double punched, showing signs of a repunched mint mark or RPM, which appears as a shadow or second D slightly offset from the original, a classic error in the world of coin collecting that alone can increase a coin's value by hundreds or thousands of dollars depending on condition and rarity. But that's just the beginning, because this particular penny also displays a dramatic double die error on Lincoln's bust, most clearly seen on his earlobe, a variety known to collectors as the 1984 doubled ear Lincoln cent, where the doubling makes Lincoln appear to have two overlapping ears, a visual glitch caused by a misalignment in the die during the minting process. And this type of doubling is not the same as machine doubling, which is more common and less valuable. Instead, this is true hub doubling, a far rarer and more desirable mint error that occurs during the creation of the die itself and not during the actual coin striking, and the presence of both a double die and a repunched mint mark on the same coin is not just a fluke, it's an astronomical rarity that pushes the boundaries of probability. And when you add to this the fact that the coin was struck on a transitional planchette, possibly leftover from earlier compositions, you get a combination of features that are not supposed to exist on the same coin, making it a perfect storm of minting anomalies. And some experts speculate that this coin may have been struck on a 95% copper planchette instead of the zinc core planchette that was standard by 1984. And this alone adds a layer of historical intrigue, since copper planchets were officially phased out in 1982, meaning any 1984 penny struck on copper is itself a mule error. And when you combine that with die doubling and mint mark repunching, you've got a coin that defies standard classifications, and its worth isn't just derived from its components or weight, but from the intense demand among collectors who see it as a once-in-a-century find. And while some may argue that no penny should be worth hundreds of millions, in the world of collectibles, rarity and demand can drive value to extraordinary levels. Just look at the art market or the world of vintage cars. Value is about perception, rarity, provenance, and the narrative that surrounds an object, and in the case of this 1984 D penny, all these elements align to create a perfect storm of collectability. And it's worth noting that not all 1984 D pennies are valuable. Billions were made, and the vast majority are worth face value or perhaps slightly more in pristine condition. But the coin we're talking about here is unique due to an improbable confluence of factors, including the repunched mint mark, doubled ear die variety, potential transitional planchette, and near-perfect preservation that places it in the upper echelons of coin grading, with experts grading this coin as MS-68 or higher on the Sheldon scale, which is almost unheard of for a circulated coin of that era. And some theories even suggest that this penny may have been a test strike or a mint error that was smuggled out by a rogue employee or perhaps accidentally released into circulation, and the mystery surrounding its origin only adds to the allure, as each theory opens new doors of intrigue and speculation, fueling the legend of the $315 million penny, and the coin has reportedly changed hands through private sales, secretive auctions, and hush-hush dealer transactions that only increase its mystique. And even though the identities of the current and past owners are not publicly confirmed, the stories circulate in the numismatic underground like folklore passed down through whispers, and the mystique of the coin continues to draw in collectors from every corner of the globe, all hoping to discover a similar penny in their pocket change. And let's not forget the psychological allure. A penny is something most people ignore, discard, or drop into tip jars without a second thought, so the idea that one of these humble coins could secretly be worth hundreds of millions is both tantalizing and unsettling, forcing us to question how many treasures may be hiding in plain sight. And in many ways, the 1984 D-era penny has become a modern-day treasure hunt symbol, sparking a renewed interest in coin collecting among younger generations and casual hobbyists who now scour their change in hopes of striking it rich. And even if you don't find the $315 million coin, the possibility itself is a source of excitement and wonder, and that's the real magic of this tiny copper disc. It inspires imagination, investigation, and appreciation for a craft that many overlook. And while the astronomical value of this specific penny may be an outlier, its existence reminds us that errors in mass production can become moments of extraordinary significance, and that imperfection, paradoxically, can create perfection in the eyes of collectors. And so whether you're a seasoned numismatist or someone who just found an old penny in your drawer, the story of the 1984 D-era coin challenges us to pay closer attention, to dig deeper, and to never underestimate the value of something simply because it's small, common, or overlooked. And as long as this coin continues to capture imaginations and break price records, it will remain a shining example of how history, human error, and the unpredictable world of collectibles can converge into a single object of immense worth. And so the next time you find a penny, especially a 1984 D, take a closer look. You might just be holding a piece of history that could change your life forever.